Okay, can you all see the PowerPoint slide being shared? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm coming in, I'm talking about chapter 12, and next week I will be covering chapter 19. And basically, we could actually put that under the group called the balance scorecard. And I would, as pre-lecture, you're asked to watch this video. How many of you have watched this video? Do I have a show of hands, please? Who has not watched this video yet? Hello? Just, you can put your microphone on, please. Okay, do you all know how to access this video? Yes or no?
Yes,
Can I have some responses, please? Sean, are you with us? Sean, have you looked at this video?
Yes, sir. I haven't watched this video.
Oh, that's all right. But do you know where the link is in the Moodle?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We just need to know where we are, in case I don't want to confuse you with things that I thought were there but are not there. Okay. All right. So do take a look at that, because that's when I was teaching at NUS Business School, and we were teaching the students to think more about, well, what if you all graduated tomorrow and then your relatives come to you or your family member comes to you and say, you just graduated from Monash Business School. Can you help me with this restaurant? Can you help me with this business? And then you're probably thinking, well, I've studied management accounting under O'Connor. I don't know. I've studied this, but I don't know. I've studied this, but I don't know. I haven't got the experience. But that video is about having to think a little bit further about, you don't need to have experience to ask some simple questions as a consultant. And the big question that we're asking today in chapter 12 is, why do customers come to you? Can you all make a note? Do you all have a pen? I'm serious now. Do you all have this EGB, right? Do you know what this is? This is a pen. All right. So can you write down the most important thing at chapter 12 begins your journey on is about, why do customers come to your business? Why? That's what we're going to be exploring the whole session today. Why do they come? The whole idea about strategy is about thinking about why customers buy your product. Why do they buy your service? And if you think, if there's one thing you don't learn anything else today, is to have a better sense of, if someone asks you about strategy, then the question you should ask, do you know why customers come to your business? Do you know why customers buy your service? Do you know why customers keep coming back or don't come back? Wow. That's it, O'Connor. I thought there was more in chapter 12. No, that's it. That's it. Okay, let's make it very, very clear. All right. That's what strategy is about. That is what chapter 12 is about. Now, what chapter 12 does is to take you on a path of, how can you formulate strategy? How can you know why customers are coming to you? Now you need to be able to communicate that underlying purpose of why customers come to you. You need to be able to communicate that to your whole organization. Apologies for energy this morning. Okay. Apologies for my energy. I'm excited because that's what we're all about. So I'm going to talk about strategy, re-engineering, and the balanced scorecard. And there are 3 items here. Basically, they are the 3 learning objectives in chapter 12. So make second note, got your pen. Have you printed out your PowerPoint slides?
Yes.
You have. Okay, good. All right. All right. So make a note that on this lesson plan, there's 1, 2, and 3, strategy, re-engineering, balanced scorecard. They reflect the first 3 learning objectives of chapter 12. So does that mean you have to read learning objectives 4, 5, 6, 7? Maybe not. We're really want you to focus and understand very, 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 very well these first 3 learning objectives. So what do you think? Is that a good idea, or would you like me to ask you to read the whole chapter? Which do you prefer? Do I have a hands up for the first 3 learning objectives? Do I have a hands from everyone? Oh, come on. Can we have some hands? Even if you don't show your video, at least show your hands, please. I want to see. Brian, are you with us? Felicia?
Yep.
Okay. Tanshi, are you with us? Just warming you up here. Okay, I want to know that you're with us because I need that oxygen. We have, normally in my tutorials, we have 100% their video on. But if you're not in video on, I expect your audio on or your hands and thumbs response very, very quickly, okay? It's always faster when you got your video on. Okay, so we need participation here. So far, I've got our hands. All right. So the other hand, you want to read the whole chapter, is that right? You can if you want to, please. What's very important is that you understand very, very well the first 3 learning objectives. Okay, let's keep moving on this. And some of you have already seen the video from last year, but we want to sharpen it up for what you need to know, especially for the assignment that we have set for you. There are 3 learning objectives. I don't want you to confuse that with the 3 ideas that I want to bring to you about the balanced scorecard, which is the strategic alignment framework, systems thinking, and measurement. And so you probably think, well, how does that relate to the learning objectives? Well, they overlay the learning objectives. So the systems thinking, the strategy alignment framework, and measurement in some ways is how I describe the balanced scorecard. All right. So you've got 1, 2, and 3, but as part of 3, there is the SMS, which is another 3 ideas. So 3 and 3. So there's 3 learning objectives from chapter 12. And then there are 3 ideas to help you think more strategically about what the balanced scorecard means. So there's our learning objectives summary. And the big question is, how do firms succeed? And so what I want to show you here, and very good. It's not China. Excellent. Let's go in. All right. So there. Here we have 2 factories, and I want a show of hands, the hands for the top one, the thumbs for the bottom one. I want you to tell me, which one do you think has a more sophisticated strategy? What? Hands for the top one, thumbs for the bottom one. I want participation here, one or the other. Hands for the top one, thumbs for the bottom one. Which one has a more sophisticated strategy? We need participation here, please. I cannot help you if you don't participate, especially with the assignment. Okay, we've got some thumbs to the bottom one. And we've got many hands for the top one. Do you know, are you aware of the different products that they are making? The top one is making, what is the top one making? Kimberly. What is the top one making? Kimberly, what is the top one making?
Manufacturer.
Pardon?
Car audio.
Car audio? Yeah, car audio for what? Basically, they are making the audio system that go into cars. So they're selling to manufacturers. So their customer is a B2B customer. They're not selling to you and me, audio enthusiasts, with our own cars. All right. Though you will not see their products in a supermarket or a car audio shop. They're selling directly to manufacturers. So they will make 10,000 units of one type, and then that will be shipped out at the end of the week. The one at the bottom, what are they making? We're warming up here because I really need to see where you're at. Angie, what's the bottom one making? Bottom factory?
USB.
USB. Okay. And who are they making those USBs for?
Consumers.
Consumers. They could be making them for consumers, but they're actually selling them to associations and corporates to give them away. So both of these have a viable strategy. One is no sophisticated than the other. The strategy is sophisticated when they know exactly who their customer is, when they know exactly why the customer is buying from them. Because if you notice clearly at the bottom, when we walk around the assembly area, there is a lot of dirt. The windows are open. There's dust coming in. There are IC units laying on the floor on top of each other, just gathering dust. And you can see just here, look, just sitting on the floor, gathering dust, not protected, not separated. Okay. That is a recipe for disaster if they were selling to the car audio customer. But they don't care because they are selling to non-profit associations. So do you care if you get a USB if it doesn't work? Someone gives you a USB because you went to a gala, a Royal Gala event, you went to a conference and everyone got a USB. Oh, so happy I got something for my time here. Great. You take it home and you plug it in, it doesn't work. What do? You throw it away. You don't go and complain, right? See, this company at the bottom is making millions of dollars each year, just making these USBs, selling them to associations and corporates around the world for handing out. The one at the top has a more specific customer in respect to, well, they have to pay much more attention to quality, the detail. And I'll show you in today's lecture some of the assembly process, right? Both of these companies are making money, but they both have a different strategy. And so I want you to think, when it comes to strategy, it really depends on who is the customer. It depends on why the customer is buying your product. So two strategies here are like product differentiation and Cost leadership. Ah, wow. So the one at the top is more likely to think about one of these, and the one at the bottom is probably likely to think about the other. So here's the question to you. So the car audio manufacturer, which strategy do you think they are pursuing? Can I have a response, please?
They're trying to achieve product differentiation.
Product differentiation. And the one at the bottom, the factory at the bottom, which one do you think that is pursuing?
Cost leadership, because their customers are non-profit organizations.
Non-profit associations, corporates, exactly right. So that's a good example. So when I took you through that, the way that you distinguish a strategy, the best way is to think about why the customers buy from you. And that's the first big thing you need to take away from this morning. In your assignment, remember page 1 of your assignment is describing the two companies. Am I right? Page 2 of the assignment is then describing the strategy in terms of a customer preference map. And that's what we're going to look at shortly. But a focusing strategy is a hybrid. That is something that's in between, where you might just focus on a particular price point. For example, the high-end cameras, this is Hong Kong dollars, much more now, compared to one of the first waterproof cameras that came out onto the market over a dozen years ago. Down below. That means you're focusing on a particular segment. It may not be that you focus on every segment of a product. And that's more of a focusing strategy. In some ways, it's kind of an extension of a differentiation strategy. Okay. So how do firms succeed? Can I ask you to have a look at these two videos very quickly? Because I want you to think that here are two more factories I want you to think about. The first one at the top. And this is a Conrad Global Sources Trade Show March 2017 edition. I'm with Patience. And that's Patience. And we did go visit their factory. And anyway, here they got lots of headphones. And the thing about headphones is it's a personal thing. You've got to try them on and see what happens. I've got a few to try. Here we have two factories that are making the same product. See, before the factories are making different products. It's easier to distinguish between the two. But now they're making the same product, headphones. But the one at the top is making a very cheap product. Well, it's about US dollar, $6.50. The one at the bottom is making a product that ranges all the way up to 38.50 FOB. That's US dollars. 2000 MOQ. That's minimum order quantity. And so, which of these factories do you think is following a cost leadership strategy? The one at the top, can I have a show of hands? And the one at the bottom, can I have your thumbs? Thumbs at the bottom and hands at the top. Everyone, please, come on. We're going to be slower if you're not responsive to my questions. Hui Jin, I asked a question. I want a hand or a thumb. Okay, the thumb is the bottom one, the hand is the top one. Brian? I'll ask the question again. Okay, which one do you think is following a cost leadership strategy? Hands for the top one, a thumb for the bottom one. I'm waiting for a response from everyone. If you're in this tute and this workshop, then you have to participate. I'm sorry, but that's how we do it. Otherwise, we just record this and you can go do something else and then you can watch the video afterwards. It's okay. I don't mind that. Felicia? Hands or
Sorry, could
thumbs?
you repeat again?
The question is, which one of these is following our cost leadership strategy? Which one of these factories?
The second company.
The one at the top or the one at the bottom?
The one at the bottom.
Is it cost leadership? Okay. And Rashik, which one of these is following a cost leadership strategy?
Sir, I think the bottom one.
The bottom one, cost leadership, and the one top? No. Okay. All right. Axel, which one do you think is following a cost leadership strategy?
The second one, sir, the bottom one.
The bottom one. Okay, let me just say that again. Here we go. The one at the top is selling headphones for $6.50 FOB. So they're very cheap headphones. Okay. The one at the bottom is selling a more expensive version, and that is an ANC headphone. Okay. So I want you to think about, if you were a customer, which of these products would price be a concern to you? When you follow a cost leadership strategy, you are targeting a customer that cares about the cost of your product. Okay, and then decides that I'm going to buy your product because you are cheaper than the competitors. All right. All right. Okay. Harisha, what do you think?
I think the top one is the cost leadership and the bottom one is product differentiation.
Okay. All right. And Divashi, what do you think?
The bottom one is cost leadership, the top one product differentiation.
And okay. And the bottom one, cost leadership, because? Okay. How do you do, what's the difference? How could you find out if one is a cost leadership or a product differentiation strategy? What did I say in the previous slide? That is, you need to think about why the customer comes to you. Okay. If the customer is coming to you because you offer a cheaper product, value for money, then it's more likely to be a cost leadership strategy. But if the customer is coming to you and buying because you have superior quality or you have certain features for a higher price, then that's more likely a product differentiation strategy. Okay, so let's just be clear again. Which one of these do you think is following a cost leadership strategy? Mingyan, what do you think? What do you think, Mingyan? Hello.
The top one.
I can't hear you.
The top one.
The top one is a cost leadership.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. And why do you think it's the top one? Mingyan?
The cost leadership.
Yes.
is the top one.
Okay. All right. And Tianxi, what do you think?
Top one is cost leadership.
Okay. And Shamli, what do you think? Shamli is not with us. Okay. Yenko. Huijiang, what do you think? Huijiang, Huijing, what do you think? Okay, we've got some sleeping computers here. And all right, who else thinks that the top one is cost leadership? Okay, we've got the hands up. Okay, that's wonderful. All right. Okay, so I'm more, let's go and have a look at the factory, because when you go into page, you work out that strategy in that second page of your assignment, and that is your customer preference map. And then the next part is the really tricky part. And this is where I really need your attention. And that is, okay, so when you see the operations in the factory that supports a certain strategy, what do the operations look like? Do they look differently? And so this is what we've got here. So we go into the factory and then we see the following. Line now. Thank you. And so here we have those two factories. So the one at the top was the cost leadership strategy, because I was selling $6.50 FOB price. And so we can go straight in, and there's no sealing of the dust room. You can go straight into the assembly area and it's not dust free at all. Whereas the assembly area on the bottom one is dust free. And that's the difference. The factory at the bottom is focusing on product differentiation. They want to make the best ANC headphones in their focused product price point. So here you're going to see several assembly lines here today, but the big idea I want you to take away and want you to start thinking about is that there's a process that companies go through to arrive at their final product. There is a process. It's an assembly process. There are different steps. And later on, when we look at the strategy map, you're going to be expected to think about some of the major processes that a company needs to go through. And that will help you to think about formulating the strategy map in page 3. So let's just summarize the first learning objective. If we have a cost leadership strategy of chipset, then it produces a single specialized product CX1, and it's a standard high performance microchip. It can be used in multiple applications and enjoys a reputation for superior features with flexible design to meet their customer needs. Okay, so we need to think about how, if chipset is following a cost leadership strategy, then it's important that customers, if they come to chipset, then they're going to think in terms of the price. They're going to be attracted by the price. Okay. And so we can think of chipset as being attractive to customers because they have a lower price, because they have a higher scalability. They can make greater volume and better customer service. However, compared to their competitor, they are not as well competing on power and speed or customized chip design. In some ways, Visilog, the competitor, has a much more differentiated strategy, and Visilog don't care to charge a higher price. Okay, but customers that want a cheap price, Visilog don't care about those customers. Visilog is trying to attract the customers that are looking for a customized chip design and more power. So in some ways, Visilog is much more of a differentiated strategy, and Chipset is following a much more of a cost leadership strategy. All right. So now I'm going to ask you to do the following. Scott Company manufactures a DVD player called Maxis. You're required, and Scott's current strategy is that of product differentiation or cost leadership. So based on these details, I'm asking you to draw a simple customer preference map for Scott using the attributes of price, quality, and payback features. So what would that look like, that strategy map? So the first question, let's just go through this. And like this has been an exam question in the past. So it's really good to just try and understand, well, what are the questions like? What's the wording that is given in the exam? The company sells a player to discount stores throughout the county. This player is significantly less expensive than similar products sold by Scott's competitors. Wow. But Maxis offers playback compared with DVD and Blu-ray playback offered by competitor Nomad. So they obviously have a cheaper product. They also have benefits in another way. So we can think about in terms of price, quality, and playback features. So do you think customers come to Maxis because of the price? They'll buy the Maxis because of the price. We can see that because it's sold through discount stores. Playback features, you can see that Scott Company has inferior playback features to their competing product. So customers are not coming to Scott Company when they're looking for more playback features. And finally, quality. Scott Company has had production problems and has resulted in significant rework costs. Now, it's interesting that we mention that because the rework, if I can do a pen, rework costs is kind of like an outcome of an operational activity. And that may be relevant in your assignment to note for page 3 of your assignment. And their competing model has an excellent reputation for quality. So Scott's current strategy, is that a product differentiation or cost leadership? Yun Chung. Hello. Okay. Hi, Yun Chung, are you with us? Or Yun, can someone answer? Hello. Yes. The question is Scott's current strategy that of product differentiation or cost leadership?
Cost leadership.
Cost leadership, excellent. So now we want to draw a simple customer preference map for Scott and Nomad. So Scott makes the Maxis and Nomad makes a competing player. All right. And so now we want attributes of price, quality, and playback. Remember, this is your page 2 of your assignment. So we can say, okay, Scott's strategy is cost leadership. And then you explain. And the explanation is, an example of an explanation is something like, well, customers are coming to buy Scott's product because it is cheaper and the customers don't care so much for the perfect quality or all of the extended functionality. Wow. So you got price, quality, and playback features. All right. And so now we need to draw a customer preference map. And so we can draw that here. And then we can have price. And then we have quality. And then we have playback, right? Playback. Right. So we would graph Scott here and Scott here and Scott here. And simply the competitor would be like so. Now, if you're going to draw a graph like this in the exam, then it's important that you have attributes. So you might have to have 1, 2, 3, but you got to spell them out, price, quality, playback. Also, you need to have a grade by which the customers are judging. And this might be from 0 to 5. You also need to have a title, and you also need to describe that this customer preference map belongs to. Who does this belong to? This customer preference map belongs to. Who does this belong to? So what I'm showing you here is, you know what I mean now by customer preference map, but what I'm showing you is that if you are going to do a graph for the exam, for the assignment, if you're in corporate and you're doing a report, you need to title everything very, very clearly. You need to label everything very, very clearly. You need to label, what does this axis mean? You need to label, what does this axis mean? And then you need to explain, well, what does this point mean? This point, this point, this point, this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is this low, medium, or high, or does this mean something else? You've got to work with and make sure that it's not enough when you are reporting in business or the assignment or the exam that you just have an axis and you just have one for Nomad and the other one for Scott. You've got to explain what the axis means. Okay, so I'm giving you some tips here, especially on how you design your report. Okay, so remember, there has been a recording of me giving this lecture before, and we cover a lot more detail, but in terms of going right through to the end. But I want to highlight different things that a lot of students miss, even though you feel as though you've done the right answer, but you feel like you've done the right answer, but then you don't get full marks. And you don't get full marks because you fail to put a title in or explain, what do these 3 items mean? Or explain what does this line mean? What does this line mean? Okay. So just keep that in mind. This is something that you should bring into every unit that you study that's associated with accounting, business, analytics. All right. So that was an example, and that's basically page 2 of your assignment. All right. So now we want to go to, want to go to probably learning objective 2, and that is re-engineering. What do we mean by re-engineering? How many of you have heard of re-engineering before? Can you put your hand up? Can we have, you know, but actually this is a hand, all right? But if you don't want to show you video, then if you push on and, this is a keyboard, and this is and we've got a mouse here. And if you click on the mouse, then you can actually show a digital hand. So you hand up, that's what we mean by a hand. Okay. All right. So with re-engineering, when do we maximize the benefits of re-engineering? I want you to think about that. I mentioned re-engineering and you're probably thinking, Neil, we're not studying engineering. Why? You know, what do we mean by re-engineering? Well, re-engineering is a radical change in how we do things. So, for example, even post semester 2 onwards, all lectures in Monash University units will be delivered by video. So in some ways, we have done that because of the MCO, that we've put lectures on video, and then you see me in person in a workshop and tutorials, that's fine. Whereas, you know, 2019, we had lectures in the class. If we go back to classroom mode in semester 2, then we will not have lectures in class. We will continue to have lectures on video online. And it's part of my roles and responsibility to help equip staff to do very good lectures online, like really, really, really good. Like you cannot just talk to a PowerPoint and expect students to really get enthusiastic about the lecture. So we've got to find ways to re-engineer, find ways to successfully re-engineer how we're delivering course content to students. The re-engineering is that lectures are going from offline to online. So that's an example of re-engineering. But re-engineering can apply to a service, can apply to manufacturing. So learning objective 2, we expect you to understand what we mean by re-engineering. That's changing roles and responsibilities, eliminating non-value activities, using information technology like we're doing, putting lectures online, and developing employee skills. All right. So how many of you have seen this PowerPoint or video before? Can I have a show of hands? Have you seen this before? I just want to know where you're at. Are you? No? Yes or no? Have you seen this before?
No, sir.
Okay, good. All right. By the way, class, don't worry. I'm been going slow for the last half hour and trying to feel where you're at, because I want to know where you are at. No good me assuming that you know something if you don't. So it's okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a real example. Let me tell you a story. Okay. I'll tell you a little story. Okay. I have lost my job many, many times in my life. And part of it is because of my own doing, because I like to innovate. I like to try different things. And partly the reason why I ended up at Monash, I like to innovate. In 2015, well, in 2010, I decided that enough is enough of this little research. I want to do something major. So I went out and interviewed 1,000 suppliers. why should you care about that? Well, that took 2.5 years. Everyone said I was crazy, but after I did it, people started asking me, Neil, how did you do this? And then I started explaining that, well, I went into trade shows and we had a team of interviewers, and we just knocked on doors, and we just spent a lot of time in the field to understand what suppliers were really thinking about. In 2000, and so that was really nice. And then the university I was working at then said, well, we're not going to renew your contract because you really haven't been paying attention to publishing top research. I said, well, I'm making sure that I understand a very, very important industry segment of the electronic supply chain. And that's something that, future students need to know about. And then the university said, well, okay, sorry, but we're not going to renew your contract. So I was out of a job in mid 2012. But what happened then, luckily, I got a job at one of the top universities in the region, National University of Singapore. And so I moved from Hong Kong to Singapore. I'm in Hong Kong now, by the way. And when I went to Singapore, I went there for 2 years, and that was just amazing. So how did that come about? It's because I was following my passion to actually go in and find out how factories make things, what suppliers are thinking, what is a good supply chain, what is a bad supply chain. And guess what? Like, if you talk to corporates now around the world, they all realize now that having a good supply chain is one of the most critical things for their business sustainability. Whereas up until 2 years ago, everyone thought that was a dirty part of a corporate's operations. But now it's the most critical part. Finally, a pandemic come along to, make people realize this. But, I've been studying this for over a dozen years now. In 2015, I finished at National University of Singapore. I came back to Hong Kong because I did 2 one-year terms there, and that was fantastic. I came back to Hong Kong and I thought, Neil, I need to do more. And that's when I started videoing factories. And so 2015 through to 2019, I visited over 40 factories in China. And when we go into the factory, we video end to end. And there was one factory I went to, I'll show you later, and that was Aoni. And I went to them a second time, and I turned up at the factory that day, and they said, oh, sorry, the manager changed their mind. You cannot take video. And I said, sorry, I'm the professor. I come to factories and I only take video. I do not visit factory if I cannot video. And I said, oh, okay, sir. Okay, I'll go and talk to the manager again. And then the manager said, okay, you can come in and take video, but we will tell you where you can and cannot video. I said, that's fine. But I do not come into factories if I cannot video, because my passion at that time was to bring real factory videos into the classroom, like what I'm doing now, because I'm sick and tired of just teaching from the textbook. And I think students have had enough of this too. We need to energize you, and I want you to see the real world as I have seen it. And so then when in the assignment, I ask you to do something, you're not doing it based on what you read in the textbook, but you're doing it from what you see in the real world. And that makes you a much better graduate, and employability options are certainly going to be higher. So that's all I'm thinking about. And by the way, the university that employed me for 3 years, when I came back to Hong Kong and I was doing all of these factory videos, 40 of them, more than 40 hours of visits and everything, said, oh, we're not going to renew your contract because you haven't published enough. I said, that's fine, because I'm doing something even more important than that. And so let's have a look at this factory. That's some of the backstory about my passion. Okay, so don't get me wrong. I want to encourage all of you to participate. But at the same time, I'm very demanding of myself to bring real world ideas to you. I want to stimulate your thinking about, well, what does strategy look like in the real world? Okay, so what do you think? Is that a good idea? Hello? Hi, can everyone say hello?
I see.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Hi,
so let's have a look at this factory, and I'm going to just turn my razor side. Let me just turn this off. Okay. How come it won't work? Okay, so what you're going to see here is kind of the feedback that I give to factories. So not only video, but I give feedback. Now, this is the car audio factory. And what you're going to see here is a real problem. That is, they've got rejects as a certain part of the assembly line. And then what I show is that step one, can I see the quality control chart? Okay, step one, quality control chart. And that quality control chart shows me the problems that they have been having. And in that quality control chart, that problem is that when you put the SIM type card or the SD card into the slot at the front, it doesn't connect properly with the PCB board. All right. And so we're talking about, you know, something like this, but a little bit smaller. Like when you put that into the front of the audio player, it doesn't connect properly. And obviously there's some problem with the alignment of the slot with the catchment at the back. And so what I show you in this video is I go back and look at the two areas where that problem exists. And so then I'm giving advice to the factory owner about how they could stabilize or reduce the variability of problems in those two areas. Okay, so let's just have a look at this, shall we? You see, yeah? Please, is that correct or what? Okay, so there's the quality control sheet, and every one of these marks is a problem. That's not how many was produced between 8 and 9 o'clock, 9 and 10 o'clock. By the way, if you work in a factory, like a factory manager, yes, the production line starts at 8 o'clock. So I don't want you to feel that we're getting you up early for this workshop this morning. Okay, 8 o'clock is normal. And these are all rejects. In other words, then first of all, you notice I point to this line here and to understand, well, you know, where this is where this thing is slotting in, and that's where the problem that we're identifying. So let's have a look. This is the defect and this is the number. Okay, so just say no to that. So we're just saying that the most common quality problem is that this assembly where you put the actual mini SD card in here, assembly part where this is screwed on, right? So who does that? Where is that? That's done up there, right? Okay, so notice I'm asking the manager, who is actually doing the screwing, because there's two possible reasons for the problem, and that is if the screwing is not done properly, then the alignment may not be properly done. Or if the soldering isn't done properly, then the connections are not going to be good here. All right. Now, I don't want you to feel, I don't want you to get confused with all of these manufacturing mumbo jumbo, but I just want to show you that you don't need to have an engineering degree or a manufacturing license to go into a factory and see problems. Okay, so let's just go through this, shall we? And I'll show you the two. Yeah. So we're going up here, and so probably this. Yeah, that's the problem. This is very important. Yes. So where is he? That's the problem. That's the problem. Okay, so I want you to think. All right, there's someone. He's sitting, his legs crossed. Obviously, he's just got a stool. Could have a better seat, right? This is ergonomics. That's very important for sustainability. That major multinationals are much more concerned about now, and you know, they've turned a blind eye to these things up until a few years ago, but now they're starting to realize that we need to look after people in factories more so these days. But he's sitting on a stool, legs crossed. This thing here is rocking around, and he's got two hands. So I suggest that you need to put this into a cradle. Not easy. Cradle. Okay. So when he's soldering, see how it's moving around? Mm-hmm. If they had some little cradle, then he just puts it in and it doesn't move, it might make it easier for him to. Do you know what I mean? Okay. So one less thing that's moving. And so I'm telling you, any one of you can. It doesn't take much knowledge to go in and help factories like this. Okay, this is all pro bono work. I don't get paid for doing this. I just want to help in any way I can, and as a byproduct of that, I actually bring real videos into the classroom. But I just want to show you that if we can, this is an example of a small item where you could start to re-engineer a process. And it starts with finding a problem. It starts with finding the problem. You know, at the moment, three things moving: the solder, the iron, and the thing at the bottom. All right, it starts with the problem. And that was the quality control sheet. And then you just ask them, well, this is, you know, from 8 to 10, from 8 to 9 o'clock, from 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. This is the major problem that's been occurring. And then you go back to find out, well, you know, which workstation is this likely the cause of that problem? And it's just asking questions, and just going back and just observing. And does this make sense? What is happening? Can we do better? All right. So just be aware of that. But value engineering is a little bit different from re-engineering. Value engineering is something that factories do all the time. So like functional analysis, design analysis, and then we've got process improvement. So it's 1, 2, and 3. And that's kind of a bit like what I was doing in that factory. But the radical re-engineering is number 3, where you are actually changing the whole process. So I'm just going to give you an example of a radical re-engineering. And if you want to take 3 minutes for a break, you can do that. Do you want to have a break for 3 minutes, 5 minutes? Yes or no? Okay, let's okay, we can have a break. All right, let's have a break for 5 minutes and I'll see you back, okay? I'll still be here, but you just come back when you can. All right.
So actually, may I ask a question regarding the attendance?
Yes. Yeah.
Because the other day I received a message for international students that we have to key in the attendance code. So
That's correct. Yep.
will we be provided the code during this class?
That's a very, very, very good question. The question is, will you get an attendance code? Let me just see what I've got.
Okay. Because to my knowledge, they said that each unit would post it on Moodle, but so far I haven't seen it in the announcement.
That's all right.
Mm.
There's your code. Okay. JSE2L. I'll just type that into the chat room. Thank you for, I did prepare for this, so all good. That's JSE2L. Okay.
So did you type into chat or?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you for reminding me. I did prepare, so all good. Don't worry. Yeah,
Thank you.
today is the first time you have to do that. And
Yeah.
Sir, I have a question also.
Yes.
Is this attendance is used for the tutorial class as well, or just for the workshop?
This is for the workshop.
Oh,
So
okay.
in your tutorial, you'll have another attendance code. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Thank you, sir.
Let's get back into what I was explaining to you is that sometimes companies need to change things a lot. And that's what I mean by re-engineering. And there's value engineering is more something that you're trying changing all the time. But I just want to show you, remember learning objective 2, what is re-engineering? Well, here is a real, what I showed you before the break is an idea of, it's kind of like value re-engineering. You know, you're changing little parts of it. But if we were to change that person doing the soldering with a robot, then that's what we would call fully re-engineering. In order to think about whether we're going to re-engineer or not, we need to, I gave you some ideas. Number one, have a look at the reject sheet. Okay. And have a look where the rejects, what is causing the rejects, and go into the workstations and seeing how people are actually working. And is there any problem, ergonomics for the person, or is there a problem with the physics associated with the solder? In other words, if someone's soldering, they should have a electronic wrist brace around their hand to stop anti-static going into the electronic circuitry. All right, enough of that. But let me just show you re-engineering. There you have it. Yeah, this is a factory that's going to supply the wheels for the wall. So look at this. What do we have here? What are they making? Hoverboards. We all love them. And the one at the bottom, the day we visited that workshop at the bottom, they were making 600 units for a French customer. And I asked them, oh, the US, they have banned hoverboards, banned all factories in China shipping hoverboards to the USA in 2016. Do you worry about that? No, we don't care about that. Why? Because we can sell it to 100 other countries around the world. We don't care about not selling to the US. Whereas the one at the top, that is what you call a re-engineered factory. In other words, we have a full production line going here. Everything has set out where the 90 different steps required to put the hoverboard together is actually set out, and it's got one person doing 2 or 3 steps each, then it goes to the next person. Whereas the one at the bottom, you have one person who is actually making the hoverboard all by themselves. And that's the difference between a re-engineered factory and a factory that is just a workshop. So when you look in chapter 2 and it's got learning objective 2 and it says you need to understand what re-engineering is, now you know what we mean by re-engineering, okay? That you don't need to have to change the building. You don't need to have to build a whole new factory. Re-engineering can just start at just changing how something is made inside the factory, okay? And they're both making the same product, but you can see the factory at the top has totally re-engineered their work process, where they have 30, 40, 50 people on the factory line just doing one little part each, and then it goes on to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. Whereas the one at the bottom, you got one person making the whole product themselves. So that's learning objective 2. That's what we mean by re-engineering. I hope that illustrates that really, really well and what we mean. Okay, what we want to go on to, and another thing too, I want you to think. So for page 3 of your assignment, you're putting a strategy map together, and that's what we're going to cover this hour. And apologies if I'm getting excited here, because I really am passionate about you understanding what a strategy map is about. But when you go into a factory, there are different processes. Now, do you put all the processes into a strategy map? No. Okay. Do you need to have 50 or 60 processes in that strategy map on page 3? No, you do not have to do that. What we're doing with a strategy map is for you to outline broad objectives that are collection of activities. Okay, so assembly of the hoverboard can be one objective. You with me? That goes in the strategy map. All right, another objective could be receiving materials inspection. And what do we mean by that? Well, every factory. This is materials receiving inspection. This is a 4.4 amp hour battery. It has 20 of those purple units inside, but the factory at the bottom, they're receiving it already pre-packaged from Samsung. It's got Samsung on the side. I don't know if it's Samsung batteries inside. You don't know either, because their receiving materials inspection did not test for that. Whereas the factory at the top has received every one of those little units from Samsung or a major battery manufacturer, so they know what is inside, and then they put that 20 battery unit together to make exactly the same battery pack. So what I'm demonstrating here is receiving materials inspection. And then, there's lots of different parts of that. But what I want to show you is that in a factory, there's always the receiving inspection, then there is the assembly, and then there may be a final inspection. You can put that together as like 3 groups of activities that go on in a factory. So later on, when we talk about a strategy map, we're talking about the groups of activities rather than the individual activities themselves. Okay. Another thing you can think about that leads to good quality control. What else? What's this? We'll go up to the top of this one. Okay, is separation. Now, in your assignment has these 2 as the bottom video. One of the companies in your assignment that you have to watch is in this video, and this video at the bottom is they're making smartphones here. Of course, the audit for the assignment that you're looking at is based on a picture frame, but you can see that they pay a lot of attention to detail. Separation means that the units are placed onto a foam backing and each unit is separated from one another. But if you look at the top, none of the items are separated. They're just stacked on top of each other. Like that is a recipe for disaster when it comes to quality control later on. And so how would you describe that in a strategy map? You could say that you could describe this as the, the clean placement of inventory in the factory. All right, this at the bottom, this is very clean and orderly, whereas the top one, it's not very clean and orderly. All right, so I'm just giving you ideas for, at the operation level, what's important to think about in a strategy map for your assignment. So let's go on to just a reminder that this factory at the bottom, that is one of the factories that you're looking for in your assignment. Now, going back to chapter 12, learning objective 1 was whether do we follow a cost leadership strategy or differentiation strategy, okay? In your page 2 of your assignment, you have to make that decision and then you describe that decision in terms of a customer preference map. But now we need to, what we just covered was thinking about if we need to improve our capabilities in the organization, then what chapter 12 does is actually takes a divergent and says, well, you need to do some kind of re-engineering. And I showed you what re-engineering was, and that's what learning objective 2 is. I showed you what re-engineering was, or value engineering, by going into the factory and showing how they can improve the soldering process, how they can improve the screwing process. Or the example I just showed you then, where the hoverboard is made by one person, but we re-engineer in that and make sure it's made by many different people in an orderly production line. Right, that's what we mean by value engineering, re-engineering, learning objective 2. Now we want to move on to learning objective 3, where we look at the balanced scorecard, and that's where we try and visualize the whole strategy of the organization. And at the top, that's what you're learning in accounting as an accounting major. You're just focusing on costs and revenues and overhead and materials and labor and other costs. Sales, administration, and financing costs make up the profit and loss statement, right? Then you've got the balance sheet. You're learning about that in the financial accounting units. These are all very, very important courses, units that you have to study, and really, really exciting if you get into it. And if I was teaching financial accounting, I could make that really, really exciting as well. Now, what I showed you in learning objective 1 is the customer. Remember, what I showed you in learning objective 2 is an insight into how you could think about internal business processes differently under terms of value engineering and re-engineering. And then finally, we've got learning and growth. Okay, so let's go on. It's about balanced scorecards, about balancing strategy, measurement, and systems thinking, SMS. You know SMS. Why? Because you have a SIM card in your phone, and before you started using Android or the iPhone, you would just text through SMS. You might remember 10 years or more ago. All right, that's what SMS is. But in the balanced scorecard, it's about strategy, measurement, systems thinking. So far, I've explained to you what we mean by strategy. What I'm going to do in the next 10 minutes is talk to you about systems thinking. Because if you don't fully understand a system that is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, then it's really hard for you to formulate measures, non-financial measures, to go as part of the strategy map. Remember, page 3 of your assignment is about the system. It's about the strategy map, mapping out the system in the organization, how it actually achieves its strategy. Whereas page 4 is actually getting you to think about the measures that go with the different objectives that you have set out in page 3. So you could write page 4 here and page 3 here. What do we mean by systems thinking? Well, again, this is a reminder. Balanced scorecard is about strategic objectives, measures, and systems thinking. And why do we do this? Because we want to improve goal alignment. We want to have faster decision making. We want more accurate decisions. And over time, we want to learn. We want to learn so we can make continuous improvement. Continuous improvement could be an objective strategy. It could be an objective that goes into the strategy map. So, you know, I'm giving you hints already for what goes into page 3 and the internal operations. That is, you know, receiving inspection. You've got separation and orderly inventory placement. Okay. And then you could also have, you know, an orderly production process. These are ideas that you can focus on and think about that may be applicable to the factory that you do your strategy map on. Remember, this is the internal business process level that we're looking at in the scorecard. In chapter 12, they actually give you some hints of that for the internal business process perspective. That is, you can think in terms of the delivery time, delivery dates, improved processes, improved manufacturing capability, and then the measures associated with that. And then there's initiatives and target performance, etc. All right. And so chapter 12 demonstrates a scorecard for chipset. Remember, chipset is kind of a theme that chapter 12 takes you through. Remember, one of the companies in the assignment is more focusing on more of a differentiation strategy, whereas the other company is focusing more on a cost leadership strategy. You can choose either one for your page 3, 4, or 5, but you don't do both. In page 1 and page 2, you talk about both companies, but when you get to page 3, 4, and 5 of your assignment, you're either focusing on one or the other. It's your choice to do that. Okay, now systems thinking. What do we mean? Systems thinking is all about I remember when I was a kid and I'd have a shower, we actually had a little faucet that is a hot or cold. And the first thing we did before we had a shower when we were a kid was we never get in the shower. We turned on the hot and cold water to make sure that the temperature is right. So turning on the hot and cold water is an action. When the water comes out, then that is the response from the action of turning the taps. But then you test the temperature, and then that temperature compares with what you expect. That's the standard. So you're actually detecting the temperature, and then you're comparing that with the standard. That is what you want. And then you take more action, changing the taps. That's what we mean by a closed loop system. That is, you have an action, you have detection, and then you compare the detection with a standard, and then you take more action. Is that what businesses do? They do that all the time. The good businesses or the successful businesses, guess what? They are actually taking action and detecting and responding every day. How do you do that? By asking customers at the end of their experience online, at the end of their experience in the restaurant. How was today's meal for you, sir? Will you likely come back to the restaurant? No, I will not come back. your service was horrible. Oh, the meat was horrible. I'm not going to come back. But at least the restaurant knows exactly. They find out immediately, and then they can take action. Fire the chef, or train the chef, or fire the waitress because the waitress was rude to the customer. At least the restaurant can take action immediately. Can you imagine if the restaurant waits 30 days to take action to get customer feedback? The restaurant could be out of business by then. You see what I mean? So if the business knows its system, if you tell me two businesses, the business that is actually testing its system daily is going to be more successful than the business that just tests its system every month. That's what I want you to think about. That is a big thing I want you to take away when we talk about systems thinking. Now, let's apply that. Steve Jobs talked about that, because if you can connect the dots, it's very hard to connect the dots into the future, but you can look back and you can connect the dots and see where you have come. We're going to play a Kahoot game in about 5 or 6 minutes. But for now, I want to prepare you for the Kahoot in terms of what do we mean by systems thinking in terms of another organization. We can have this fast food map where these are connected with each other. But which comes first, second, third, fourth, and fifth is what you need to think about. And then you can actually think about what would come first, second, third, and fourth here. And then in the Kahoot session, we're going to test you on that. For now, in some ways, selection staffing does, we're going to do that in the Kahoot session. I want you to think about that. What would come first, second, and third out of these items? Of course, you're going to be selecting people first, but then does that selection lead to employee satisfaction or employee added value? Which comes first? And then does that lead to customer buying behavior first, or does that lead to customer satisfaction? And then does that lead to profitability? Which comes first, second, third, and fourth? That's what we mean by thinking about the system. And a strategy map that you have to do on page 3 is going to look something like this. And, you know, maybe there's 1 or 2 of these objectives that you may think of copying. Yes, you may copy one, but you need, you know, to get you thinking and starting. But I think you need to watch the videos and read the audit reports and to get a greater sense of, okay, if I am going to use 1 or 2 of these objectives in my internal business process perspective in the assignment of page 3, I better have an understanding of which one of these do I think is important for the factory that I have focusing on. You with me here? Okay. All right. So it's one thing to copy an idea, and by all means copy, but it's another thing you need to understand why you feel that that idea fits the video that you're watching and the audit report that is the subject of the assignment. Okay. All right. So please take responsibility for why you believe those objectives are important for the factory that you're looking at. All right. Finally, I want you to think of another exam type question, and that is, could be thinking in terms of a strategy map where you have, I could ask you to actually link up all of these items. And there's a video from last year where I actually do that with students, and you can watch that video. That's available for you to watch, where I actually take students through about how we line up, and then we draw that in this exercise. Finally, there's measurement. What do we mean by measurement? Well, it's formulating attributes. And what do we mean? What I'm saying is that by putting these items together, or the big thing you need to learn out chapter 12 is, why do customers buy from you? First of all was, well, do they come to you because you have the cheapest price, or do you have the best product? Ah, that's great. Okay, I know they come to us because we have the cheapest price. But now the problem is, and this is, you know, the balanced scorecard, we need to go down into the organization, think in terms of a systems view, and that is, what do we have to connect together very, very well to make sure that we can make a cheap product? Well, we need to have efficient workers. We need to have minimum waste. We need to have, you need to have fast feedback processes so we can improve the quality and not to have too much rejects, because you have more rejects, then it costs you more to make everything. And remember, you're selling your product at a discount. Why? Because customers are coming to buy because you have a cheaper price. Ah, wow. O'Connor, you're confusing me. You're confusing me. What do you mean by chapter 12? We start with why. Okay. Number 2, then you need to think about, because of that why, that is the strategy, okay, why customers buy from you, then you need to set out the skeleton or the bones. The bones, it's the skeleton of the whole strategy. And the skeleton links all the bones together, and that's what we would do here, to link all the bones together, the system of the organization together to actually achieve that strategy. And then that's number 2. And then number three is, then we need to put measures on each of these bones, or measures on each of these processes. Why? Because we need to have feedback. If we don't measure something, then we don't get feedback, and then we cannot improve. Remember, I told you the business that measures, gets feedback daily, is going to beat the business that does it monthly. But first of all, you need to know, what are we measuring? You don't just measure customer feedback. You also can measure things internal to the organization and find out things faster before the customer gets disheartened by your poor quality product. Ah, all right. So you've got strategy, then you've got the systems thinking, and then you have measurement. Ah, all right. So I think that's it. We're not going to do the strategy map, but measurement goes with that. And this is AONI, and we can look at that factory another time, but you can see that because it is available online. You could think about which of these measures matter to that restaurant earlier. And we could think in terms of these measures supporting different elements of the employee satisfaction or employee added value. Then you need to measure. If you have a selection process, you need to measure how well the people you're selecting are educated or their work experience. If you want to know about employee satisfaction, then you need to understand that if you don't give good supervision or support or fairness, then they're not going to be satisfied. So you need to maybe measure these things, improve these things in order to improve satisfaction. And then maybe employee added value, you need to probably measure these things to understand that this is going to be happening. And these are different measures that you need to think about in order for these parts of the system to do well. And so the measurement is kind of giving you feedback on this system, because what you see on the left-hand side is you do not see that. The measures provide visibility for the system here. All right. And then in chapter 12, again, they're showing you the measures that are likely to be useful for chipset to go with the scorecard, like on-time delivery, the yield, order delivery time. These are particular measures that go with the different strategy, like is set up in chapter 12 here. So go back, in your revision, go back and have a look at chapter 12 when it shows the scorecard for chipset here, but also go and have a look at the measures that go with that and see how the objective has a measure, so we can get feedback on what is happening. And there's an example of a solution to that exam question that is in your PowerPoint slide that you can review. So what we're going to do now is play Kahoot. Many of you have played Kahoot, and it's very important that we have at least 10 minutes to play this to help review what we have covered today. What do you think? Is that a good idea? Can I just have a yes or no from everyone? Is that a good idea? Do I hear you? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Give feedback, and that's very important. Okay, let's go. Are you ready, Ski Daddies? There's about 15 questions, and you've got 20 seconds. If you are faster, then you get more points. And strategy balance scorecard. 3, 2, 1. Let's move this thing. This is exciting here. Number 1, which of the following statements best defines strategy? $25. Excellent. That's 25. I want all of you. That's 25 out of 31. That's amazing. Right, let's keep moving here. Who's on top? KI. Who is KI? Who's KI? Who's KI? All right, you better take a screenshot because you're not going to be on top for long. I'm sure Casey and Jaya is going to beat you in the next one. Come on, Jaya, I want you to come ahead. Come ahead. Profit potential of an organization decreases with... The profit potential of an organization decreases with... It means it goes down. $24, stronger entrance, greater competition. Next. Okay, that's 24. That is great. We want to get 30 on the correct answer. That'll be amazing. KI, you're doing very well. Can you identify yourself? Is KI? Who is KI? Who is KI? So we don't know. Okay, it's an anonymous person. Okay, all right, let's keep moving this on the scoreboard. All right, true or false? Product differentiation leads to brand loyalty and willingness of providers to offer lower prices. True or false? All right, the answer is false. Okay, product differentiation. Lower prices is kind of the opposite of product differentiation. You differentiate because you want to have higher prices. Okay. Well, we got rid of KI anyway, so don't worry about that person. KC is our leader at the moment. So well done. And Y and CL, well done. And Min has made a great comeback. All right. An organization's ability to offer products or services that are superior and unique relative to competitors. So which one? Can we get all of you to have the right answer here? I think it's amazing, amazing. Can we get everyone to have the right answer here? 32. This is amazing. Wow. 32, getting it right here. That's awesome. Why, you've come to the top. Well done. You beat KC. Well done, CL, Min. Well done. And AG, you're moving up here. Well done. Well done. Excellent. All right, the quiz. An organization that is using cost leadership approach would... Remember, this is about cost leadership. What do we mean by cost leadership? Okay, 22, well done. Focus on productivity through efficiency improvements. Remember, if you do that in a strategy map, that's what needs to do. Min, you're doing very, very well. Min and Aloe, well done. Great, great, great. Now, AG, you need to come back here. We need your work. And Q and K, you're doing very, very well. K has got an answer streak of 5 in a row. An organization that's using product differentiation approach would do what? What would they focus on for product differentiation? Can all of you get the right answer here? This will be amazing if we get everyone have the right answer. That means we're teaching something this morning. I think that is fun. Fun, fun, fun. Awesome, awesome. 31, that is amazing. Use innovative research and development. Super, super, super. Min doing well. LO, AG, Q, and K are leading the field. That is so fantastic. 5,000 already after 6 questions. What are the customers' considerations to buy CX1? Remember, in the chipset example of chapter 12, remember, chipset was competing on price, wasn't it? And many other things, not just price. All right. Have you got the right answer here? 25, all of the above. Somebody paying attention. I think that's fantastic. Hello, you're moving to the top. 3 players have reached an answer streak of 6 in a row. This is amazing, amazing, amazing. Now, 8 out of 18, which is the wrong result of successful re-engineering. Successful, remember, the wrong result, Okay, changing roles of responsibility. That is correct result, not the wrong result. But there's others that are the wrong result. Re-engineering is all about changing the way things are made. Developing employer skills is not necessarily re-engineering. Remember, I showed you the 2 factories. Re-engineering is one factory is making the same product in a different way than the other product. Another factory is making the same product. The hoverboard example. Value engineering is when we go back and actually change that guy the way he's soldering, replace that with a robot. That is re-engineering. Okay. Developing employer skills is not necessarily re-engineering. Okay. That otherwise tricky. SA, you're onto the top. SA doing very, very well. Followed by LO and then AG and then K and then BH. Let's go for the next question. True or false? Value engineering focus on product function design to achieve cost reductions. Cost reductions, true or false? Remember, value engineering, we're trying to eliminate all the non-value added activities. Why? Because we can reduce the costs, don't we? That's value engineering. Value engineering. Most of you got that right, 28. That is fantastic. You're on the right track there. Doing very well. We have LO at top, followed by AG, K, BH, and Y. Go, go, go. We got halfway there. What aspect in the top of the pyramid of the balanced scorecard? What is at the top of the pyramid in the balanced scorecard? Is it the customer, learning and growth? Is it financial? Is it internal business processes? Remember, at the top, we shouldn't focus too much at the top because we have lower control of what happens at the top. We have more control of what happens at the bottom. I expected everyone to get this answer correct. What is going on here? The accounting is at the top, but we cannot control the financial outcomes. We can only control the learning and growth and the internal business processes. And maybe we can control the customer through marketing efforts, and we're changing the customers' mental processes and how they see your product. But we cannot force customers to buy your product through physical means unless they have no other choice and they have to eat to survive. Okay, LO's on top, followed by Min, then KY, then SA, and then AG. Well done, LO, 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 LO. Let's go. Let's see which aspects are being balanced in the balanced scorecard. What are we balancing in the balanced scorecard here? Can we get this balanced right? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing here? Which aspects are we balancing? We are balancing lots and lots of things. I hope you all got the idea from today's chapter 12. 30. This is a fantastic. Only 2 correct, but not the most correct. Most correct is all of the above. 30. That is amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I'm excited with this. Let's move on. Scoreboard. Hello, what happened? What happened? You didn't get this one. SA and Amina on top, followed by LO, KY, and AG. Let's move this thing. True or false? Goal in SMS, goal stands for goal alignment, on-time decision making, accurate decision making, and learning. Remember, I told you about that. Is that true or false? Can we get this right for the first time? Every one of you, 31, including Hey I, of course. Let's move this thing faster, 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 faster. Let's get this goal done. All right, true or false? The goal in goal alignment, 28, you got that right. It is on-time decision making, accurate decision making, learning, and goal alignment. And the strategy map is really focused a lot on trying to get goal alignment and learning, because we measure things and the measure gives us feedback, and then we can take actions. And if we do that faster, then we can be a better business. Min followed by SA, LO, KY, and then TS. TS has made a great move up. Well done, TS. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Insistent seeking. What is the planned outcome of selection and staffing? What is the planned outcome? Remember the example I gave you? I told you I'll test that. What is the planned outcome of selection and staffing? What is it? What is it? What is it? None of the above. Employer value, added value, employee satisfaction. What is the planned outcome? First of all, we want to have employee satisfaction. Most of you have been paying attention to that. Another one. Now, what happened to Min? Alo's made a move up. SA, you're on the top. Go, 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 followed by Y, KY at the bottom. Okay, let's move this thing. 14 out of 18. What is the likely outcome of the sustained profitability? Remember, again, this is again thinking about the systems thinking. What is going to lead to sustained profitability? Is it going to be customer buying behavior, or is it going to be customer satisfaction? One or the other. I give you a hint here. It's definitely not none of the above. And shareholder value is the outcome of that. It's either the one or the other. Definitely shareholder value is an outcome of sustained profitability. Customer satisfaction, customer buying behavior is actually leads into sustained profitability. I actually led you up the wrong path there. Sorry if you listened to what I just said. All right, Alo, you're on a hot streak, and SA, you're on the top of over 10,000, followed by KYY, WY, and then Min. Then we have the quiz, 15 out of 18. Based on fast food system seeking example, which of these processes is the correct sequence? Can we get the correct sequence here? And we're over time, so we need to finish this. Remember, this is the systems thinking example. What is the correct sequence? Employee satisfaction. Is it employee added value first? Is it selection staffing first? Let's move on to this one. It is selection staffing, employee satisfaction, then employee added value. SA, sorry, LO, you're back on top, followed by KY, WY, and then Min. All right, one more question on that. We've got two after that. Based on fast food system seeking example, which of these processes is the correct sequence? Can we get this right this time? Again, customer satisfaction, customer buying behavior, sustained profitability. You know, sustained profitability is not going to go backwards. Is actually outcome of customer satisfaction, customer buying behavior. So definitely not the yellow, definitely not the green. It's either the red or the blue, and it is the red. I'm sorry, those 8 that chose the green or the yellow. SA, you drop back. Sorry about that. KY, you've made a move up 7 places. Q is the highest climber. Q, you're coming back. And what have we got now? 17 out of 18. We've got 2 left. Which of these is a good measure of customer satisfaction? Which of these is a good measure? Many of you are having fun with this. You can go back and play this Kahoot anytime if you like, but it's a good review of what we're covering. Which of these is a good measure? Customer complaints is definitely can be a measure. Customer return can be a good measure. Which is the best? All of the measure. Referrals, complaints, customer returns, they are all a good measure of customer satisfaction. Alo, you did very, very well holding your place. SA has moved up. We're in the last round now, 18 out of 18. Thank you, Ski Days, for this. Which of these are a good measure of improved production quality? Greater production delivery time, lower production yield, less production rejected, all of the above. These are some measures that you can put in page 4 of your assignment, by the way. All right, but you need to link it to a proper objective in page 3 of your assignment. All of the above. These are all good measures, but also less production rejected. that is possible too. That's the second most. Actually, you're lucky there. It should be all of the above is the best answer. Okay, so there's the podium. Well done, well done, well done. WY is on top. When you're in, well done. KY just above again, and then right on top, who have we got? Hello, you made it. Hello, that is amazing. Can you put your video on to receive your medal, followed by Min and SA? Do we have, all right. I know we're over time, but thank you. I hope this helps to, we had bits and starts today because I want to get feedback from you. But what's very important is that you get your teeth into chapter 12. Just remember that the big idea of chapter 12 is why do customers buy from you? If you figure out that, then you map out the strategy. And then if you map out the strategy through a systems map, strategy map, like page 3 in the assignment, you put measures to that match page 4, and that will help you actually get feedback. And so you can execute your strategy to success. That's how you can be successful. Very operational, this chapter. Can I ask your feedback sheet at the end of the session? Sorry that I've kept on asking you to show your videos and different things, but I feel better if I can see who you are. Then I can help you more, especially if you ask me for a reference one day, especially if you ask me for questions about the assignment. I know who I'm talking to. It all helps in this communication process. I will see you again next Tuesday again at 8 a.m. and we have much more fun. Let's play another Kahoot game. We'll start it earlier and we'll actually go through the chapter with the Kahoot and have much more fun. If you found this fun, then we should do this again and play again sooner and have much more fun. Please give you feedback. Sorry, I've picked on you with the video, but I think we have a bit of fun this morning. And it's a little bit different from the lecture I videoed with the class last year. You can actually watch that video where I go into details and a little bit in other aspects, but we did slow down to spend a little bit more time on the actual factory processes so you can actually see what you need to look for your assignment. And do ask questions in the feedback sheet that I've given you a link to, and I can give you feedback. I'll make a video of your questions that you do ask me for your assignment, especially, and then we can have a look at more questions from you for the assignment, especially next Tuesday morning when I see you at 8 a.m. Thank you very much, and I'll stay around. If any of you still want to ask questions, I'm happy to help. I'll just wait until you're all ready to leave.
Thank you, sir.
How was the Kahoot?
Great, sir.
Okay.